Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Itzel if you're new here. Today's video is about Universal Studios Hollywood tips and tricks. Yes, this one is for Universal Studios Hollywood here in LA, in California, not the one in Orlando. I've only been there twice, so I could not tell you enough about that one. I've been to this one at least 20 times, so this one I'm a little bit more of an expert on. But these are the tips and tricks that I have gathered from the last couple of trips that I've been there. If I ever come up with more, I will make another video or I'll write them in the comments down below. But yeah, let's get started. I divided the tips and tricks into 4 different categories, and we will just start right away because I wrote a lot of them. The first category is the packing phase. What is the packing phase? So it's when you're at home and you know you have a Universal trip coming up tomorrow, in a week, in a month, and you want to know what exactly you're supposed to be bringing, what you're not supposed to be bringing. So I'm going to tell you right now. So number 1, which might be a little obvious to some people and might not to others, especially if you're flying in from a different state or a different country. Sometimes people get confused, but Universal Studios and Disneyland or Disney World are 2 very different companies. If you bring Disney merchandise to Universal Studios, then the employees will make fun of those visitors and just play it off. But really don't want to bring it because you're at a different park. It's funny to see it, but if you really want to be like in the spirit of Universal Studios and movie magic and all that, then I would suggest looking up your favorite Universal Studios movie and then seeing if you could get a shirt like that or dress up like one of the characters. Alright, number 2 is bring comfy shoes. I know, I also want to look cute when I go somewhere, and I want to bring like these really cute shoes that I have, but they're super uncomfortable. So what I do is I bring the comfiest shoes that I have, are the ones that I know I'm going to be comfortable walking in for the whole day. And then I bring another pair of shoes that I want to take pictures in, if you want to take pictures in those shoes. And if you're like, that's too extra, just wait for the next tip, which is you can bring more than one outfit. This is a little trick for those of you who are like me and want to be able to match the aesthetic or theme of a certain ride or a certain part of the park. All you'd have to do is pack it in your backpack, in a tote bag if you're bringing a tote bag, and you can just change in the parks, and there's no rule against it. Number 3. I'm gonna stop keeping count. Bring deodorant, okay? If you use deodorant, which I'm pretty sure almost every single person does. He does this every time I start filming and he's like, oh. So bring deodorant if you know your body and you know how it works. Then I suggest bringing deodorant as well as sunscreen. If you need to reapply sunscreen, bring sunscreen. On that same note, if it's hot and you know you need some cooling devices, you can bring the little fans, like the neck fans. You can bring a cooling towel. You can bring handheld fan and just keep it with you at all times, especially if you're going on a hot day like during summer, or even like fall times can still be a little bit warm. If you're going from like November to March, April, it should be nice and cool. So instead of that, you'll have to bring a jacket. So always check the weather and make sure you know what days you're going, how the weather is going to be that day, so that you can plan accordingly. Next one. There is one water ride in Universal Studios, and it is the Jurassic World ride. And yes, you will get wet. That is the whole point of the ride. So it kind of depends on where you're sitting as well. You won't get as wet as other people, but if you want to go on the ride but you don't like getting wet on rides, then I suggest buying a poncho or a bundle of ponchos on Amazon. Last tip for the packing phase is, it isn't really a tip or a trick, it's just a reminder that it's a theme park. It will be expensive, okay? The butterbeer is $8. Why is butterbeer $8? I don't know, but that is how Universal Studios has their prices. Other meals are going to be expensive. For me, now that I've been going for a year, I've I'm used to paying that much for something. Is it good for my bank account? No. But do I enjoy it and get happiness out of it? Yeah. So it's kind of worth it. Moving on to food tips. Okay, so the first two that I'm going to talk about could also be considered a packing phase tip, but it had more to do with food, so that's why I put it here. The first one is to bring your own water. You can bring your own water. You can bring a metal container or a plastic container. Do not bring glass. They will not let you take it in and they'll throw it away. When you get inside the park, if you run out of water, you can always go to a quick service area, and if you buy some food, you can ask for cups of water with it. They do have some refilling stations here and there. The second one is you can bring snacks from outside. To save money, and if you have kids who are picky, you can always bring your own snacks. If you know you can't eat a lot of the food items that Universal offers, you can always bring your own snacks in. The only rule about it is that it cannot be refrigerated. Things you would find in your fridge, don't bring them because they will spoil over time because you're walking back and forth for long periods of time. So bringing like goldfish, Cheez-Its. There's 2 Starbucks inside of the park and there's one outside of the park. So as you walk through City Walk, you will see a Starbucks is on the 2nd level. It's closer to the park and you can always get a water refill there. You can always get your coffee fix there too if you need it. If you go inside the park, you walk into the park and you'll see the Hello Kitty store to your right, and then you'll see the Starbucks to your left. That Starbucks is the big one. You can go in there, get some AC, sit down, relax. And then if you go to the lower lot, as you're walking into Transformers, if you look to your right, there's another Starbucks. It's a little bit smaller, but again, if you're down there and you're like, I need coffee, or I need more water, whatever you need, you can go in there. Staying in the lower lot, and if you look to your left from the Starbucks, there's a Panda Express. So there's something a little bit more familiar if you don't want to eat at one of the restaurants that the park offers. No, Panda Express is right there. Next. So if you go on the app, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and click dining and pick a place to eat, it should lead you to this. It will give you all the dietary options that certain restaurants have, and it will say if it's vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, peanut-free, soy-free, etc. It'll also have the map of where it is. If it doesn't have any options above the map, that means that there are no other dietary options for you. Okay, next one is to save you some money. If you go with someone who has an annual pass, here's a little tip. That person can use their annual pass to give everybody a discount. I have never done this before because I've only gone with my brother and he has his own annual pass, so he just uses his and I'll use mine when we pay for things. But if you go with a group of people, one way you could use this annual pass is the person with the annual pass can pay for everything, and they show their annual pass and everybody gets the discount and you save some money. Or you could individually pay for your things, and each time the person with the annual pass can just show it. I don't think there's any rules against that, but I've also never done it, so don't quote me on that. This is just an idea, but it does save everybody some money. So you can figure it out with your party if that's something you want to do, if you have somebody who has an annual pass, and if you don't, then unfortunately I don't have any tip for you. Sorry. Next. The portions are pretty good when you go to a restaurant, and they're pretty much for just the one person. If you want to try all the snacks at Universal Studios, or at least most of the snacks that have intrigued you, then I suggest splitting each dish that you buy with the person you want to share it with, or if it's a group of people, you can all just try it a little bit, and then you won't be full and won't go to the next place and be like, I can't eat anymore, I'm so full. The Three Broomsticks has family platters, so if you're going with your family or with friends or a big group in general, you can always go to the Three Broomsticks in Hogsmeade. You'll see the literally 3 broomsticks in a triangle, and you can order the family platters. If you go on the app and you look at the menu, it'll tell you, I think there's 2 different family platter options. It's a lot more expensive because it's feeding more than just the one person, but if you all split it, it should be enough to feed everybody and about cheap enough that everybody can pay for it and stuff. Yeah. Now, if you decide that you do not want to eat anything from the park, I don't blame you. It can be expensive, it can be overwhelming, it can be just inconvenient. You can always go to City Walk. When you leave the park, you have to make sure they give you a stamp as you're exiting so that when you return, they can scan your hand and they'll know that you're coming back. Because if you leave without the stamp, you can't come back and you'd have to buy a new ticket to come back in. And you don't want to do that because you already bought a ticket. So, very important, if you're leaving to go to the car, if you're leaving to go to City Walk, if you're leaving for whatever reason, make sure they give you a stamp on your hand and you can go to City Walk. In City Walk, there are so many options and you know all of these options. They're easy, they are, again, familiar, right? You have Pizza Hut, KFC, Johnny Rockets, there's an NBC Brew and Grill, and they have huge screens with all the sports stuff that is happening. There's a lot of different snack options too in City Walk. There's some shopping you could do as well, and after that you can go back into the park with the stamp that you have on your hand. The only problem with this option or this trick is that it does take time away from you being inside the park, and if you're on a time crunch and you only have the one day to be there, I don't really suggest doing this, and it can take about an hour sometimes. That's just an option if you decide you don't like anything in there. Alright, important tips. We are on to the most important tips that I could think of. By the way, if you have a tip or a trick for Universal Studios that I have not said or thought of, please feel free to comment them to help out other people, to help me out too. I'd love to know what you guys know. Most important tip is download the app, okay? They do not give out park maps in paper anymore at Universal Studios. I think I heard somebody ask and the employee said, oh no, it's all on our app. So, download the app. It takes you like 20 seconds to download it. Once you have the app downloaded, I would create an account if I were you. It has the map of the park, it has the wait times for all of the rides, it has the menus, it has so much more, which we're going to talk about right now. But you can also create an itinerary inside the app. The app also will show you where all the bathrooms are, the lockers, guest services, stroller and wheelchair rentals, and guest services has a lot more options to look at as well, which if you click guest services, that section of the app has where to find the lost and found, guest relations, ATMs, smoking permitted areas, first aid, and service animal rest areas. Next, the reason you should still have the app, the reason you should download the app is because the times for how long the park is open, meaning Universal Studios, and how long City Walk is open are on the app. To sidetrack a little bit, Universal Studios and City Walk are 2 different areas. You do not need a ticket to go into City Walk. You do need a ticket to go into Universal Studios because they are 2 different things. City Walk leads into the gate for Universal Studios, but that is completely free for anybody. All you have to do is pay for parking. If you go on the app, it'll tell you how long Universal Studios is open. So for example, it might be open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But then City Walk won't open until 11 a.m. and then close at 11 p.m. So you have to make sure you know what the times are in case you wanted to stay longer in City Walk, or if you wanted to get there earlier to walk around City Walk but then realize that it doesn't open until 3 hours after you've gotten there. Important stuff to know, right? So you're not wasting your time and you're not just wandering around aimlessly. One more important thing about the app is that it has a parking reminder section in the app. So basically you can go to this parking reminder and you can take a picture of where you parked you can write the section where it says section. You can write the row, you can write the color and the level that you're on, and then it'll just remind you at the end of the day, or if it realizes that you've left Universal Studios, it'll remind you where you parked, so then you're not freaking out about where you parked. Like I did one time. It was like the maybe third, fourth time that Ian and I went, and we parked, I think in like the 5th level. I thought we parked in the 3rd level and my car wasn't where I put it. So we went up and it wasn't there. We went up again and ta-da, it was there, and I was freaking out the whole time. Don't be like me. Lastly, for important tips, is you do not need to make a reservation to Universal Studios Hollywood like Disneyland. If you've been to Disneyland recently, you know that once you buy your tickets, you need to make a reservation for each day that you're there to a certain park. You do not need to do that for Universal Studios. I don't know why Universal Studios doesn't have a reservation system. I'm not mad about it, because it's kind of a pain when I go to Disneyland and I have to make a reservation, but I don't know why. On to at the park tips. I mentioned earlier that Universal has 2 areas, the upper lot and the lower lot. Now, it's important that you know this before you go, because there's 4 sets of escalators sending you down into the lower lot, and it takes 5 minutes to go from up to down, and round trip is 10 minutes. If you're only there for one day, you want to make sure you do everything in the upper lot first before going down, or everything in the lower lot before going up. The lower lot has less rides, so it might be a little easier to get through. If you get there kind of when the park opens, the wait times will be a lot less, and you can go around and you can do everything down there and then go all the way back up. On the same note, if you have somebody in your party who cannot go down escalators, then you can always walk into Simpsons Land and then turn. It'll say the lower lot. As you walk under the sign, if you look to your right, you'll see an employee next to an elevator, and you can tell them that you have somebody who cannot go down the escalators, and they will gladly put you on the elevator, send you down a little bit, and then a van will take you all the way down to the lower lot. And then if you need to go back up, all you have to do is go back to the same place where they dropped you off, and then they will take you back up. If you arrive and you have a lot of stuff and you don't need a lot of that stuff yet, there are lockers. I suggest investing in a locker. It's another chunk of money, but it'll help you in the long run. You won't be hauling everything behind you. It's already kind of a pain to have something like a backpack on you. We're gonna talk about something a little similar to the locker thing. If you are coming with kids or just a big party and you have to have the backpack on you because, you know, kids need things, then just so you know, there are 2 to 3 rides at Universal Studios that require you to put your stuff into a locker because they're high speed or because you go upside down slightly and they don't want you to lose your stuff. If that is the case and you get to one of these rides, like the Mummy for example, you have to put your stuff away. There's no going around it. You can have like a tiny purse or a fanny pack, your phone with you, that's fine. You cannot have a huge backpack on you and they will send you back. You will lose your spot in line. It's a whole thing. So to avoid this, they have big lockers. These big lockers do cost $5. If you get a small locker, they're free for 2 hours. After that, they will charge you like, I think $3 every 30 minutes. So if you're putting your stuff into a big locker and you don't mind spending around $5 to keep your stuff in there, then that's fine. You have your solution and you are allowed to go on the ride now. If you do not want to spend $5 though, I suggest taking things out of that bag and having like 3 different people get a locker and put stuff into their locker. So you separate all your stuff into 3 different lockers and you don't have to pay for anything. The lockers do require you to put your fingerprint, your little fingerprint right there. It'll scan it. You click rent a locker, scan your finger. It'll open one for you. You'll put your stuff in, lock it, click the green little button on the side to really lock it. Go ride, come back, you click reopen locker and you'll put your fingerprint down. Sometimes it's a little iffy and will say that it doesn't recognize you and you just have to keep trying, and it's kind of annoying. But it's really safe because who else is going to have your fingerprint? Nobody. After you put your fingerprint in, you can open it and take your stuff out, reorganize yourself, and then you can keep going. And then you didn't have to pay an extra $5 for something you didn't want to pay for in the first place. Yay! If, for instance, your stuff does get stuck or the machine will not open it back up for you and it says that it doesn't recognize you, you can always ask somebody to help you with it and open it. You have to describe what's in the locker and they'll just double check that you were telling the truth, because obviously they don't want you stealing anybody's stuff or somebody else stealing your stuff. So that is the second option for that. And then the third option is that if somebody does not want to go on that ride from your party, you can always have them sit down and keep all your stuff safe, and then you don't have to even do the whole locker thing. They'll have to sit there and wait for you, but you can go ride the ride if they don't mind. Let's say you and your party have done every ride in Universal Studios, you still have like 3 hours to kill, you've eaten everything, and you want to ride more rides. Here's a way to do that without having to wait in the general line, is you go to single rider line. Sorry, somebody texted me. My computer's dying. Okay, so single rider. Not all the rides have single rider, but I know there's at least 50% of the rides at Universal Studios do have single rider. It will split your party up, but you each get to experience the ride at least one more time, and it's a lot of fun. It's worth it, especially if you've already ridden the ride with your whole party. So I would definitely suggest doing that. The studio tour is my favorite thing to do at Universal Studios. I love it. I've done it so many times. Just so you know, this does last an hour. If you need to go to the bathroom, go before the tour. If you need to eat, go before the tour. If you want to get out of the sun and off your feet, go on the tour. Next, Universal Studios keeps their bathrooms pretty clean. So any bathroom that you go to normally is always going to be very clean. There's always somebody in there cleaning whenever I go to the bathroom. I don't know if I just have spectacular timing or if they just always have somebody making sure that the bathrooms stay top notch. They're pretty easy to find as well, so you're good on that end. If you and your party or just you want to sit in the front, you can always ask an employee nicely. There's no guarantee that they'll say yes, but it's always worth asking. If there's a character that you see out in the open and you want to take a picture with them, with you and your party, or just you, the employees are more than happy to take your picture. If you are not sure if they want to, you can always ask them if they are comfortable using personal devices, but from what I have seen so far, they have always been able and willing to take my picture. Last two. There are 4 rides that use screens. I'm pretty sure it's 4. It's Despicable Me, Forbidden Journey, Simpsons, and Transformers. Some of the rides don't only use screens, they have like practical effects as well. But if you get motion sickness, then those are 4 rides to just watch out about, because obviously you don't want to feel bad after going on a ride. That's not fun. Normally I've seen characters come out kind of in like the middle of the park in the upper lot. If you walk past the Starbucks and Hello Kitty store, you'll see that New York is right in front of you, and then there's like a little quad center. So around the quad and New York, there'll be characters usually. So you could probably ask an employee and see if they have times when the characters are going to come out, and if hopefully they know. I've never asked, I kind of just like run into characters. You'll see so many different characters. Okay, and last tip, I've been sitting here for 40 minutes apparently. If you are looking for a good shady spot, away from the sun, away from the heat, if you go back into the Wizarding World, which is Hogsmeade, which is the Harry Potter area, and you go to the back of the 3 broomsticks, there's so many umbrellas for you to sit under the shade in, if there's no space inside of the 3 broomsticks. But if there's not, the back outside seating area has umbrellas and shade. It's pretty cool there, it's nice, and it's just an easy place to sit and just chill. There's nice music, you can people watch. So that is all my tips and tricks. I might come up with new ones. I'm going in 2 weeks. I renewed my pass, going to Halloween Horror Nights, and I will be vlogging Halloween Horror Nights. I'm super excited to show you guys that. I hope I can do at least like 2 to 3 mazes, because last year we only did one because the wait times were like 3 hours long. But this year I'd like to do, I think, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because I think that one's just gonna be really funny, or it might create a new phobia for me. The other one I want to do was the Universal Monsters one, so that's like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, all those classic old-timey horror movie characters. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about Universal Studios or Disneyland, I know this wasn't about Disneyland, but that as well, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.